Oil reserves are a very specific definition of what an oil reserve really means. But I've heard that number.
Thank you. And we've heard the President refer to that both during his campaign and in his State of the Union. I think the last figure he used was 3%. But I think it's important because the people throughout the country they need to know the truth. And if I look at these numbers here, that our country doesn't have just 2% of the reserves. At least 86 billion barrels of oil in the outer continental shelf, 24 billion barrels in shale deposits in the lower 48 states, up to 2 billion barrels of oil in shale deposits in Alaska, up to 12 billion barrels in ANWR, as much as 19 billion barrels in Utah, the tar sands, according to the Bureau of Land Management. All of these numbers are coming out of governmental agencies. There's a massive Green River Formation in Wyoming, which according to the USGS contains a stunning 1.4 trillion barrels of oil shale. And on it goes. Rand Corporation found that about 800 billion barrels of oil shale are in Wyoming and neighboring states. All told, the U.S. has access to 400 billion barrels of crude that's recoverable via existing drilling technologies. That's really very important for us to recognize that we do have more than 2% of the oil reserves, and that we can be energy independent if we just tap what's in the United States of America. We can become less dependent on the Middle East oils. And I think, as I sit here, it's so important for me to get a feel from this administration. Do you understand, and I'll just briefly mention my district, which is upstate New York, no mass transit and very cold weather. So we've got folks up there who must drive to work, and we don't measure in terms of blocks and miles like we do down here in Washington. They drive half an hour to work, just as my colleague from North Carolina mentioned. And beyond that, we live in a climate where the battery entered, the leafs and the volts, they don't work real well because they're so light, and in the weather and the snow that we have, last year we had over 200 inches of snow in my district, so they need heavy-duty cars that burn fuel. So my question to you this morning is, does the administration even begin to appreciate the pain at the pump that the American people are feeling? 70% of Americans drive automobiles. This issue is on their minds. And I'd like to see whether or not you think the administration is even aware of the pain that the people of America are feeling at the pump.
The administration, the President, and I personally feel that very much. That is and we actually know this pain, because if you're in a situation where you do have to commute and you do have to use your own car, it is causing great hardship.
Then with all due respect, why aren't we tapping into the resources that exist in the United States of America so that, I agree, all energy exploration, but from what I'm hearing, and we talked about the stimulus and the advantage of the weatherization program and the fact that it benefited 680,000 Americans, and I think the number you used was approximately $437 a year in savings. That's now being eaten up at the pumps. That's nothing. Any benefit, if you could possibly justify the stimulus plan, is gone out the window because this administration is not willing to be aggressive and establish a sound domestic policy here, energy policy, where we explore all energy possibilities, but we rely on the resources that exist in this country. And I think if we did, we'd see, and you mentioned it in your opening comments, supply and demand. Very simple. We increase the supply of oil. We send a message to other countries that we are not going to be dependent on you. We have the resources here, and I think you will see gas prices drop dramatically. And I would ask of you to go back to the administration and say, the American people are hurting. They need you to do something now. They need the Keystone Pipeline Initiative. They need this country to say, yes, we will do all forms of energy exploration, but primarily we will drill and we will make sure the American people have access to lower gas prices, and we access all of the resources that exist in our country. I see my time has expired. Thank you, sir.